So last time we did the pragmatics and meaning part. Now we'll do modality part, okay? We'll do modality part. So just to refresh your memory, when we talk about modality, right? So modality refers to expressions, right? Refers to expression. Modality refers to expression that kind of modify a proposition. So if you have a proposition like this, if you have a proposition like this, then a modality expression will kind of refine it or qualify it in some way, right? For example, if you say the exam may be difficult, right? Or maybe I should say must be. I should say must be difficult, or is going to be. So the proposition here is just the exam, and then be difficult, right? And then the modality expression in this case is the may. So may here indicates probability. So it's like it is like the word may, which is probability modality, right? Refines or kind of qualifies the proposition there in some way. So it's not the proposition itself, it's the things that qualify or the things that refine the proposition. So that's what we talk about when we talk about modality, right? And as you know, there are two types of modality expressions. Some people classified up to even 3 types, including dynamic, but we'll just limit our attention to 2 types. The epistemic has to do with knowledge, right? Now, your knowledge of the world. And your commitment to that knowledge. Commitment to the knowledge. So how much you believe or how certain you are about something, okay? Are you sure? Are you not sure? Like that, okay? So that's epistemic, right? And then we also have the deontic, which is the opposite. It has to do with your kind of desire, right? Permission, obligation, and stuff. So what you like to happen, what you like there to be, what you like other people to do. So there are 2 types like that. And needless to say, a modal could be used to express either epistemic or deontic, right? Depending on the context. So you need to know the context in order to understand the meaning. Because in theory, a modal could express both. Okay? So we'll practice, so I'll give you the context on the exam, I'll give you the context, and also I'll give you as much context as possible so that you can tell me the meaning. And we are not limited only to modals, okay? Not only may, might, can, could, and like that, but there are other expressions like noun phrases that indicate modality as well. So we'll look at the examples here. So if you will, so can you take a look at this part 2 modality on the exam guide here. We'll practice this and we'll underline first where modality is, and also we'll discuss the functions, okay, whether it's epistemic or deontic. So in number 1, I'll just give you maybe 1 or 3, the first 3 examples, and then I'll have you do it. And then we'll look at it together. Number 1, come on guys, don't be lazy. You better start reviewing Krista's lecture notes. Here, where's the modality expression? Here, right? In this case, what kind of function does it have? Does it indicate like desire of the speaker, or does it indicate the knowledge of the speaker? about the possibility or the probability of something or the certainty of the speaker. So it indicates the desire, right, for the listener to do something, right? So it's deontic in this case, right? Because it's a recommendation too, right? It's a recommendation, right? So it's deontic because it indicates the desire of the speaker to have influence on the listener or on the addressee. Number 2, Gyu-ho, you had better not eat too much or else you would be fat. Here you have how many? You have this one, right? And you have here. Okay. The first one, had better, what kind of function does it have? Does it express the desire or obligation on the part of the speaker? Yes, right? So it's a recommendation, so it has a deontic force. But in the second one, you would be. So this is kind of the prediction, right, of the speaker about the future, right? So it has to do with the knowledge of the world. So it is epistemic. Okay? Now, I'll skip number 3 because it's long. I'll do number 4 because I like to talk about time. Time understood so little of what I said that I might as well have been speaking in Hungarian. Where is the modality expression? You know, might as well, right? The word might as well, what does it tell you? It tells you that you have 2 options, right? So I'll use this. So may as well or might as well. Just like may and might, okay? That's the modal. They tell you that you have maybe at least 2 options. Okay? And 2 options are equally good. Right? That's why as well, right? As well as, meaning 2 options are equally good. So you can do one option or the other option after as well, right? So may as well plus a verb, may as well plus a verb. So you have something that comes before, right? A sentence that comes before, and then you may as well do another thing, which is as well as, another option which is equally good, as well as doing the other one that comes before. But typically is used may as well and might as well. The constructions are used to indicate resignation. You know, resignation, when you resign, it's from the verb to resign, right? Resign is like you cannot do it anymore. You give up. Resignation is like giving up. Or even frustration, right? That you give up doing the first thing and you do the second thing, okay? Now that you know the meaning of may as well and might as well, basically it's used for sarcastic purposes, right? When you indicate your resignation, you give up on the first choice, so you do the second choice, which is maybe equally good, but you don't prefer to do it if you can do the first choice, right? Or frustration of not being able to do the first choice. So if you look at the context in number 3, if you come back to look at the context in number 3, or number 4, I'm sorry. He understood so little of what I said, meaning he didn't understand me. So I might as well have been speaking in Hungarian, meaning so I should speak Hungarian to him because the result would be the same, right? He wouldn't be understanding me. So in this case, what kind of, so it indicates like frustration or resignation, right? So in this case, what kind of meaning is it? Is it deontic or epistemic? Primarily deontic or epistemic. So the speaker is saying, yeah, I could be speaking in Hungarian and the result would be the same, right? So primarily he's predicting that the result would be the same if he spoke in Hungarian, right? So in this case, it's likely epistemic, okay? Because the speaker is predicting that if he spoke in Hungarian, the result would be the same, that he wouldn't understand, right? Thank you for being my example. So can you do number 3, 5, 6, and maybe up to 12? Some of these examples are taken from political speeches of Obama or of other political leaders. So you underline all the modality expressions, and then you consider how they are used in context and what functions they have, okay? So I'll walk around and help you. And I thank her for pointing this out because it's interesting. She pointed out that in this textbook, which she's using for a different class, it says that this is talking about modals, right? And it's talking about perfect modals like must or can or could or whatever, have been, like that, must have, and then past participle. You see that there are 2 blanks on can, could, and must, and may, like that. So it means that must here in the past tense, like must have used, must have graduated, like that, cannot be used for the deontic meaning, right? That's at least what the book says, right? So if you take it from this book, you cannot use must to have that deontic meaning of obligation or necessity, like that, in the past tense, right? But as I said, all the modals could be used both ways. So we can find some examples. The examples that I gave in the class was maybe students must have passed all the classes before graduation. That's what I gave in the classroom, right? Students must have passed all the classes before graduation. In this case, I said that it could express both meanings, right? That they must have passed, meaning before graduation in the future. They must have passed, meaning they must have completed, right? It's required that they do that, right? Or it could represent a guessing, right? Or a possibility. They must have passed everything before they graduate, like that, right? So it could be both. But according to that book, it could be only epistemic meaning, right? Not deontic. So what do you do when you come across this kind of case? You look for more examples and you use your judgment, right? To look at whether it can indeed express deontic meaning. And so I just did this like maybe 2 minutes ago. So I Googled the phrase must have plus a verb. So this is like a list of things that this company asks people to do before they, I don't know, close their account, right? Let's suppose that they have an account in the bank. And here it says, buyers must have collected to close. In order to close the account, in other words, in order to close, buyers must have collected or good funds to close. So in this case, what meaning is it? Is it deontic or is it epistemic? Do they express a requirement here or do they express possibility? Use your judgment. In order to close, right? Pre-closing checklist. Before you close the account, you have to do all these things, right? Pre-closing checklist, meaning you have to check, and that before you can close. Check, like that. Now, buyers must have collected to close. So, is it epistemic or is it, last one. Is it epistemic or is it deontic here? Is it a requirement or is it a possibility? Clearly, in this context, clearly it is a requirement, right? Obligation that they have to check, 1, 2, 3, like that. So they have to do that, right? Before they are able to close the account. Maybe you cannot see. Where is it? Here. Can you see this one? D-Day 70th anniversary block tour. To win the prize of all 10 books. To win the prize. In order to win the prize, you must have collected all 10 answers. is this clear that it's a deontic, that this is what you must do? Is an obligation, right? You could look at other things. Here too, the player must have collected snakes, whatever that is, in order to win prizes. This is also obligation, right? Must have, right? So I think, or the NSA, this is from Forbes, which is like, I think a magazine for economics and business. The NSA must have collected metadata before, from this verse on violence and that kind of thing. So it expresses obligation, right? So most of these then express the, what we call the deontic meaning. So if we come back to this book, then a possibility might be that,
but that book says to communicate past tense, and the examples you showed, they're not talking about past tense, they're just requirements.
Interesting, but when you look at these things that I just showed, don't you think that it's past tense in a sense? Like this must have happened before they can win. They must have happened. That's past, right? They must have happened before the win, before the winning happens. So it's past tense in that sense, I think. Because must have in and of itself indicates past tense anyway, right? Must have done, it indicates past tense anyway. Must alone, like you must sit in the front, you must register for class, that's must alone is future, right? So we can talk about this more, but let's focus on this. Thank you, Suyong, and we can talk about this more if you are interested. Oops. One possibility is that these days there's such a thing as what we call corpus linguistics. You know corpus linguistics? Corpus linguistics is like linguistics that that examines data from real user. So we collect examples from newspapers, from conversation, from advertisement, and see how people usually or how people really or realistically use language. So Google is one source that people can collect data. And you look at possibilities and you come up with the conclusion. This book might be missing real, what we call real corpus linguistic data, meaning that if it's just written based on one person's intuition, he may have missed real data out there. So that's possible, okay? Let's come back to this one. Number 3, I had hoped to see who had been elected tonight, but since the results are coming in so slowly, I may as well go to bed and find out in the morning. What kind of meaning is that? Epistemic or deontic? Epistemic or deontic? Epistemic or deontic? Maybe in this case it's ambiguous. It could be both. That is going to bed is, I know. Going to bed is as well as good as staying up to watch, right? You can paraphrase this as, I know, or I'm sure that, or I think that going to bed is as good as. So in that sense, it's epistemic, right? Or you can paraphrase it as, because it's late, I should go to bed. So that's deontic, right? Number 5, considering how much stingy Junsong is, I might as well become a beggar at Seoul Station. This is more sarcastic, right? More the sarcastic type. So maybe epistemic. You can paraphrase it as, I know that becoming a beggar at Seoul Station is as good as asking him to treat me because he is stingy. But in fact, he's not, right? Because you promised me. Number 6, you might as well get a taxi from the station. It will be quicker than me coming in to get you. This one indicates recommendation, right? What that person should do. So it's deontic in that sense. Next page, what do we have? We are called to remember how likely it was that our American experiment would succeed at all. In this first sentence, what do you see? You see this? It's not a modal, right? But it's also a modality expression, how unlikely, right? Unlikely it is. That's what kind of modality is it? Epistemic, right? It has to do with possibility. Would succeed. Epistemic, right? Because it has to do with possibility. That a small band of patriots would declare independence, same thing, right? Epistemic. And they would form, that's epistemic. So in all of these cases, we have epistemic modality expressions. But in number 8, you see a different scenario. In number 8, that's why fixing what's wrong with our healthcare system is no longer a luxury we hope to achieve, but it's a necessity we cannot postpone any longer. What kind of, what modality expression do we have here? Necessity, right? In this case, it's a noun phrase rather than a modal. So that is a deontic or epistemic? Deontic, right? Number 9, I also believe that we'll get through this, that if we act swiftly and boldly and responsibly, the United States would emerge stronger and more prosperous than it was before. We have many modality expressions here, including believe, right? I believe, so that's not certain, but that's believe. We will, and then the US will emerge stronger, like that. So the first one, I believe, is clearly epistemic, right? Number 2, or the second one, we'll get through this. What kind of modality is it? In this case, you can interpret it as both, epistemic or deontic. Remember examples like this when we look at political speech, deontic, of President Bush, remember that one? That it could indicate the intention of the speaker. We will do this, meaning we have the intention to do this, which indicates the desire of the speaker, in which case it's the deontic, or he is sure that this is going to happen. So that's epistemic, so it's both. So try to, if you have to decide, try paraphrasing. That, you know, we have the intention to, or we intend to, that's deontic, and we know that we will get through this, that's epistemic. So if it works in both, in the context, if both work in the context, then it could be either epistemic or deontic. Okay. Number 10, I have said that I don't believe government has the answer to every problem or it can do all things for all people. We have this, right? Can do all things for people, right? What kind of modality expression is that? It's indicating the ability, right? And in this class, we put it under deontic, right? When it indicates the ability, right? Number 11, As we continue to recover from an historic economic crisis, it's clear to everyone. So here we have this. And anything else? No. So what is that expression function? What is the function of that expression? It's clear. Epistemic, right? So we'll do 12 as the last one together, okay? You can do 13, 14, and 15 yourself. As we continue to recover from, 12. I believe, as I always have, that we'll rise to this moment, we'll build something better, we'll secure America's future, and so on. So we have, I believe, we will rise, we will build, we will secure. This case should be the same as number 9, right? Should be the same as number 9. Namely, believe is purely epistemic, right? Whereas we will rise, we will build, and we will secure could indicate both the epistemic and deontic meanings, right? Because you can paraphrase it as we intend to rise, or I know that we will rise, like that. So you can practice 13, 14, and 15 at home. And if you want the answers, just email me or come to see me after class. That's for yourself. The next thing that I want to go over is reported discourse or reported speech, right? When we talk about reported discourse or reported speech, we could talk about that in 5 dimensions. When we think about the use of reported discourse, we can talk about the 5 dimensions here, right? The voice, whose voice is this? Whose voice? Is it the writer's voice? What's the source? In other words, what's the source? Sometimes the source is explicitly stated, right? That X says that, right? Or Y said that, so you know that. Or according to X, right? So you know the source, okay? But sometimes the source is unidentified. Especially when it's like, it is said that, like that. Or some say that. In terms of the message, which is number 2, what pattern do you see? Is it direct reporting, meaning direct discourse, direct speech? Or is it indirect speech, meaning indirect, the writer or the speaker will paraphrase, right, the original wording. DS, direct speech, is original wording. IDS, not original wording, right? Or it's a summarized version, meaning there is not even the speech that being reported there, but there is like the summary of the whole event, the whole speaking event. So for example, I could say, Krista complained about Junsong's being late in treating him. There's no speech that's being reported here, right? No exact wording, not anything that has to do with the things that Krista said, but this is like a summary of what he did. Okay. Or it could be a mix, right? It could also be a mix of DS and IDS. Sometimes you have just quotations for some words only, right? Or a mix. You could also have a mix. Okay? Mix of DS and IDS. Selective quoting, in other words. You just select one word or one phrase or one expression. An example is Krista complained about Junsong's stinginess, like that. So, and if that's the word that he used, you will have that kind of pattern.
What's the difference between indirect speech and summarized words?
The indirect speech, you have not the exact wording, you have the words there, right? What is the content of his complaint, right? But the summarized, you just indicate that he said something or he announced something, right? There's no actual reporting of the wording. No actual reporting. You report only the event, but not the actual wording or even paraphrase version of the wording. There's no, like, this is just a summarized version of what he did, right? Not exact complaints that he uttered. Okay? If I change this to the indirect speech version, what would you do? I asked you, what would you do? What would you guys do? So if you want to show this example in indirect speech, how would you do it? Use the word complaint about Junsong. How would you change it to yes? You must have the paraphrase version of the wording, right? So how would you do it? Junsong, would you like to do it? Yeah, Krista said that Junsong was stingy, like that. Okay, so that's the example. Krista said that, or Krista complained that Junsong was stingy, like that. Okay, so that's the IDS version. Because you have the exact or the paraphrase version of the words. For the signal in number 3, the signal, where is the thing that signals the direct speech or indirect speech? Is it in the main clause or in the subordinate clause? Main or subordinate clause, okay? For the attitude, you could have either neutral, positive, or negative, okay? For the purpose, you may have the direct speech or indirect speech for narrative purpose, meaning you just use the direct speech or indirect speech to tell the story. So that's for the narrative purpose. And for non-narrative purpose, not about telling the story or what happened, you could use it to support the idea that is presented before, right? For example, if you say, Soo-young doesn't believe in the use of deontic modality for must have, like that. And you can say, according to the book X, must cannot be used in deontic construction. So this use of reported speech is just to support, right, the argument or the statement that comes before. Or I can say something like, Kyungmo doesn't like Yates because according to the photo that I have, he slept in class. He slept in Yates' class, right? That's the reported speech with my evidence. So for non-narrative purpose, you can use it to support, or you could use it to, the opposite is to argue against, right? Counter-argument. An example is if you have my speech before and you use like Krista said that, or must can be used, must in the past tense could be used for deontic purpose, but I don't agree because the book said like that, to undermine the original argument. Or to lend credibility. To lend credibility to the source. You usually cite an authoritative figure, right? Or you usually cite like the Bible, you usually cite the law just to show that your argument has credibility, right? People should believe you. So there are like a couple of reasons you can do, a couple of things you can do. So if I give you a news clip or an extract of news on the exam, you should be able to talk about these different dimensions in regards to the use of direct speech and indirect speech in there. So could you do let's look at the first page of that preparation guide. And this is a news piece from Korea Times, okay? So it has to do with this guy who is the owner of the sunken ferry, Sewol. So can you look at the use of reported speech in there and underline and also discuss the use in 5 dimensions? Fugitive, what does it mean? A person who is running away, right? Fugitive meaning a person who you want to catch but cannot catch. So in number 1, is there any reported speech there? Can you identify the phrase or the expression that tells you that it's a reported speech? Here, right? Reportedly. So it's not the writer's. Everything is the writer's word, of course, but he or she is telling you now that the information here is from a different source, right? Not from him. So reportedly here, right? So it's the signal, right? The signal here is in the main clause, but it's an adverb, right? So I could put it here that it's an adverb, and it's in the main clause under the signal. So it's adverb, but it's in the main clause like that. So if I give you a table and you can fill in the table, right? And whose voice is it? Do you know? We don't know, so it's unidentified, right? And the message, is it DS, is it IDS, or is it summarized, or is it like a mix of everything? This should be clear. What kind of message is it? Direct, indirect, mix, or summarize? Is there any like reported words here, directly or indirectly? No, right? We only know that what he did was to contact people. So it's a summarized version. Like that. And the attitude, we cannot detect, right? In this case, so we just say it's neutral. And the purpose, in this case, is clear because it's in the first paragraph, right? So it's clear that it's for narrative purpose. Okay. So can you do number, let me see, 2, 3, let me see which one is interesting. 5 and 9. I'll walk around. So, just want to mention this point for the purpose of the exam that Ayong asked. When you consider whether a modality expression is deontic or epistemic, try paraphrasing. If it's epistemic, you should be able to say, I am sure that, or is sure that. You can also say, is sure that, and then the sentence, whatever it is. Right? So in this case, it would be epistemic, right? On the other hand, if it's deontic, you can say it's necessary that or it's recommended that. Okay? And if you can do both, then it's ambiguous between the two. Okay? So on the exam, you could just write some notes that show you have thought about the question, not just writing epistemic or deontic, right? If you say epistemic, then you give me this kind of formula. I'm sure that whatever the question is, I'm sure that X will happen like that. Or I'm not sure. I'm sure or I'm not sure like that, because it all have to do with they all have to do with thinking, right? Possibility. Okay, so far so good. Let's look at number 2. For number 2, what's the source of number 2? Number 2, the source is the Korean government, right? Number 2, the Korean government. So it's the Korean government and each embassy. And they have refused to confirm the media reports. What kind of message is that? Indirect, direct, summary, or mixed? It's summary, right? Because there's no words that are being reported here. There's no words that are being reported here, right? Either direct or indirect. We just say that they refuse to confirm and they cite possible sources. But we don't know how they cite them, right? And we don't know what they say when they refuse, right? So there's no words that are being reported here. So it's summary, okay? The signal words, what we have? Refused, which is in the main clause. And we also have citing, which is in the subordinate clause, right? The attitude here is we don't know, so it's neutral. And the purpose, again, for narrative purposes. Number 3, whose word is being reported here? The prosecution. The message is, this is indirect speech, right? Said Tuesday that. And the signal is said, right? Which is in the main clause. And the attitude, is, if in absence of it being like positive or negative, it's just neutral, right? And the purpose here is also again narrative, right? In this paragraph, they talk about youth supporters seeking the political asylum abroad and so on. Okay. Then we could do number 5. Number 5. What's the source for number 5? This one might be a bit tricky to find, but it's at the end, right? So we have French newspaper Le Figaro, right? French newspaper Le Figaro, like that. And the message, what kind of message is it? It starts from he bought, right? He bought property in a small, what is it, Couberfy village in southern France and so on. This is what kind of message is it? It's not direct speech, right? Is it indirect speech or is it summary? What kind of message is it? Summary, right? This is what happened, right? And the signal, according to. And according to is a prepositional phrase. You know that, right? According to something. And the attitude is just same, neutral. What's the purpose? The purpose is different. If you look at paragraph 5, they say that he must be in southern France, right? And they cite the report of one newspaper in order to back that up, right? That he must be in southern France. So the purpose is for supporting, right? Finally, we have number 9. So number 9, the source is observers, right? This one is not the speech, but it's the thought that's being reported, right? So consider. So the source is the observers. And the message is summary again, the summarized version. And the signal, the verb consider. The attitude, in absence of it being positive or negative, we say that it's neutral. And the purpose is, again, to continue the narrative. Because if you look at the overall paragraph, paragraph 8 talks about one of the options that he would be staying in, like Canada. In 9 is another option, which is the Philippines. So it continues the narrative of where he will be located, right? So for the rest, you could do these at home. You could attempt them at home. And if you have questions about the answers, then you just ask me after class or you just email me, okay? Throughout the semester, we base our class on the assumption that language is instrumental, right? Rather than language is something that you have to analyze, like syntax, like that. But language for us in this class is instrumental, right? And socially functional, meaning that we use language for different purposes, not just to communicate, not just to get our points across, but to persuade people, right? And to persuade people, to manipulate people, and so on, right? And this class wants to give you like a set of tools that you can use to analyze how people use language, starting from reported speech like that, right? And looking at the meaning in language, looking at modality and stuff like that, right? And the set of tools here allows us to review more precisely what people do when they use language, what people think when they use language, and what they intend to do, right? And we look at these different tools, right? Starting from grammatical structure, process types, if you remember, material, verbal, and stuff like that. Some people are represented using material processes because they do something to other people. And some other people just complain like that using the verbal processes. We look at reported speech, we look at metaphor, modality, and different types of meaning. That's what we look at in this class. And we choose text from different genres, from different domains, newspaper, advertisement, whatever, right? We look at, or legal text, for example, we look at text from different domains, and we look at different strategies that people use in advertisement and so on, what words people use. And the outcomes, I hope that you guys are more critical readers and users of language, meaning that you are not going to be fooled by people, you're not going to be persuaded easily by other people because you are aware of what they are doing, right? And many things seem to be naturalized, meaning things that people say, things that people do every day, and they look natural. They look like there's nothing like wrong about them. But when we look closely, we can talk about the intentions of the speaker and how they want to manipulate the readers, right? And people might say that, well, is this class necessary in order to be able to understand language, in order to use English properly? There are things that are, more obvious than others, I admit. But there are other things that are like not on the surface when you have to analyze things like the material process or the metaphor that underlines people thinking down below, right? So things like when we talk about fear that could ground the plane like that. So it's not as evidence as other things, right? And people might say that our analysis is selective, meaning that I select different texts because I know what you will learn from those texts, and also I know what we'll figure out from those texts. So it's biased. People might say that I'm biased because I select like so obvious texts that will have like bias or prejudices in those texts, right? But I accept that my contention, meaning I accept that I'm biased, but I'm open about my bias, I'm open about my prejudice, and my intention is to make you critical readers. So this is for your benefit, and it's for benefit of the people who don't know. Because when you know, when you learn about what people try to do to you, you are empowered, right, to think differently. So that's my bias, but it's bias in favor of you guys. So this is a different, and I'm open about my prejudice. So, so these are my contentions that I want to say. So I hope that you guys are more critical users of language, whether it's reading on the reading part or the writing part. And of course, this might be the last class that you guys will be taking from me, but I hope that your studies continue, right? And this is just the starting point for you to think about how people use language. But I hope to see you guys in the future in other classes too. So if you have questions, just email me, or you can see me after class. Thank you for this semester, and I will see you around next semester.